importing 2D static assets from Illustrator and Photoshop. And so we should note that Adobe Aero files we should ideally keep them around 50 meg or below. And you can always check your Aero file size when you go out to share. It will give you an estimated size of your project. Same with the iOS version. So let's go into Photoshop first. I have a little cloud I made. And this image, so it's 962 by 516. I have my PPI at 72. 72 is ideal for screens. It's perfectly fine. You know, if we were printing, of course, it would be higher. But we're ideally trying to keep this as low as possible for Aero. And I'll show you a comparison between this file size and then a reduced version. So let's go in, save as, PNG. Big, save, and then I'm going to do a reduction in the image size. So I go to image, image size. Let's reduce it to 300. Okay. Save as, small, save. All right. So I'm just going to pull up those files. So we have the big. I can right click, get info. And the big is 226 kilobyte. And the small, which we reduced to a maximum of 300 pixels wide, 43 kilobyte. So not like a huge significant difference, but when, you know, working with Aero, trying to cut corners where you can, like, definitely do that. So we have the small, the big, all right, so big, small. You know, not too much of a difference. Especially at first glance, like I can see that there's quite a bit more resolution and depth to this one, but really to like the naked eye, they're essentially the same. So when you're making, you know, raster images for Aero, you know, consider how much detail needs to be included, how much detail you can give up. You know, these clouds, ideally they would be something kind of like hanging out at the top of my scene. I would have maybe imagined them just like floating back and forth on top of everything. So what I might do, and another tip is instead of importing multiples, Aero has a duplicate tool. So you can go in, duplicate it, and get everything kind of layered together and get like a nice effect. So, alright, so let's go over to Photoshop where I have a vector, or I'm sorry, Illustrator where I have a vector of this flower, and I'll note that these petals have a blend mode applied to them to get this like interesting gradient effect. And you want to export, you want to have ideally export in an SVG or a PNG file. Exporting in an SVG, that's going to give you the smallest file size, but SVGs don't like a lot of blend modes, so I'll show you what happens when we save as an SVG, what it looks like. So I lose that you know, blend situation I have going on. So keep that in consideration when you're saving your vectors. You know, this might be ideal for something without a blend mode. It might be ideal for outlined text, you know, basic flat images or graphics that you're not doing too much to them. So let's go back into Illustrator. Let's export as a PNG. PNG big. So we're going to do the same thing, export a larger size and a smaller size and compare. And so this one, usually, at least in my Illustrator, it wants to export by default with a resolution of 300 ppi. Make sure your background is transparent if that's what you want. Okay. And then we'll export another one. Small. Let's go for that 72. Okay. And I just want to compare, you know, the SVG 13 kilobytes. The big one with the 300 ppi, 621 kilobytes. You know, not huge files, but if you can, you know, save space where you can, definitely. And then the small one, which is the resolution of 72, 118 kilobytes. So let's get those in Aero. Let's see, big, small, cool. Not too much of a noticeable difference here. So it's definitely worth going for that resolution of 72. All right, I hope this helps. Cool.